This week on the Virtual Boys podcast, we wonder, how is the Switch going to do in the future, and what can we expect from its future? You're listening to the Virtual Boys podcast by Nintendo City. This podcast is done by four friends that talk about anything and everything Nintendo. Check out our website at nintendcity.com and be sure to follow us on your social network of choice. Please be sure to subscribe and share us with your friends. Oh, and please enjoy our show. Welcome back to the Virtual Boys podcast. This is episode 46. I'm David. Hello again, Pity Pat, accompanied with Skylar.
Sonic boom.
And James.
Fiora, why don't you remember?
And Jordan.
Hit me with an electric cord.
You shall know our names.
Backslash.
Backscratch.
Well, today is
What
all
a
about...
bunch of jokers.
Yeah, bunch of jokers. Well, today is all about the 3DS and the future of the 3DS. And then at the end, we'll talk about our top games from 2016. James is going to host this episode, so let's turn it right over to him.
It's been a few weeks since the Switch presentation, and then a few weeks since, I think 2 or 3 weeks since Nintendo announced 4 new Fire Emblem games in development. 2 of them are coming to the 3DS. Kind of out of nowhere. Are you surprised that Nintendo is still supporting or showing support for the 3DS?
I kind of am. I thought that the Switch was going to be the end for the 3DS. It's interesting, though, because roughly about a few days ago, the president of Nintendo came out and said that they are considering making a successor to the 3DS as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he went on to say something about how the 3DS captures different audiences. Like, it's good for little kids or something like that. So they're still interested.
He just said they're interested in making it. He didn't say why. He just said, we're interested in making another one. That's
yeah. So, yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, the Switch is portable. Why are they still making another portable device?
Well, they said they're interested, so they might still not do it. I think they're going to see where the 3D or where the Switch lands in terms of sales.
That makes sense.
Before they make any decisions. Because last year, I think the 3DS sold something like 10 million systems still.
Well, I think it's just because of Pokemon, really. I think it's a big deal.
The 3DS is still kicking then.
Yeah, it's still... Yeah.
The 3DS sold as many systems last year as the Wii U sold in its lifespan. Almost.
Yeah, just about, yeah.
Which is kind of crazy because I don't think a lot of people thought that would happen after the initial 3DS launch and how terrible that was.
Yeah, I kind of think we have a DS and Game Boy Advance situation. Because Nintendo still was perpetuating the Game Boy Advance a lot at the beginning of the DS's lifespan. They even made the Game Boy Micro. That alone is proof that they made another version.
Did it come out the
console.
same day as the DS?
Yes, it did. Which is kind of funny because they were like, if DS takes off, whatever, that's cool. But if not, we still have the Game Boy Advance and people are going to play that. This is kind of the same situation I'm thinking with the Switch and the 3DS. Because but if the Switch takes off, then is the 3DS, gone, essentially.
I think it loses its relevance pretty quickly, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, you can play powerful games on the go.
Right.
It has USB 3, which that's going to be great for charging times and everything. You can charge it pretty much anywhere. And you don't have to buy a special Nintendo charger to do it. I mean, you could probably take any USB 3 adapter and just use that instead. Which is interesting. You can play Zelda on the go. You can play this new Fire Emblem game coming up. You can play Mario Odyssey on the go. But at the same time, I can kind of see 3DS being still there in the market because some people don't have that big of a budget to make games. And the 3DS might be a good way for those people.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I actually wasn't surprised that Nintendo's still showing the support. That's because when I first saw the Switch, it had in my mindset it's a home console. And sure, the portability was obviously, they obviously pushed that. But to me, I still felt like, you could have two systems going and they're not going to really compete against each other. So when I first saw it, I wasn't surprised. But as we get closer to launch, and you see the reactions of people playing the demos and playing the games and holding it, I see more people talking about the portability and how amazing it is as a portable, and also how it does as a home console. And I start to see the value that it is a portable system. And so I start to wonder, well, then why keep the 3DS? And you do bring a good point about maybe developers don't want to pay that much money, but couldn't you just have like a low, like 2D kind of game on the Switch?
Yeah, just put it on the eShop.
Just put it on the eShop?
You could.
But then again, maybe there's other factors go into that.
And it's not like the 3DS itself is much cheaper than the Switch is.
Yeah.
To produce for?
Well, no.
Well, no, just like for consumers.
Oh, price wise.
The system itself.
Yeah, it's $200 as opposed to a $300 console. It's not
now
a deal. Yeah.
In Japan, it's only $250 for a Switch.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah.
Well, I wonder how much it is for the 3DS.
Exchange rates, yes.
Yeah, with exchange rates.
Yeah, that's true.
But it is cheaper in Japan.
As we get closer to the Switch's release, I am starting to be surprised by Nintendo's continued support.
To be fair, though, the games that are coming out for the 3DS this year are pretty lackluster games.
Well,
it seems like Nintendo has moved development to the Switch.
A lot of development.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that real quick. So, I'll just name some of the games that are big games that are coming to the 3DS. There are some smaller indie developer, maybe games that aren't even announced yet that are coming, but here's the ones that we do know. Mario Sports Superstars. Oh, that's a big one, guys.
Super huge.
Story of Seasons Trio of Towns. Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. Pikmin 3D. Fire Emblem Warriors, and that's new 3DS only. Box Boy 3. Of those titles, Box Boy 3 seems to be the one that could garner a lot of hype because that generally does well. At least the previous ones have done.
Yeah, it should be the last Box Boy game in the
They said this. They said it's the last one. So is this a good way to transition out of the 3DS, or is this a sign of more games to come?
I think it's transitioning out of the 3DS. I mean, as a gamer, I have no interest in getting any of those except for maybe Gaiden. Fire Emblem Gaiden. But I mean, it's none of the big hitter games. I think Sun and Moon was the swan song for the 3DS. They're just going to ride it out until people pick up a 3DS and have access to a massive library of games. Like my 3DS library, I think of all my systems, the 3DS comes second in terms of most games in my library at home. The first being NES. I don't think any system's going to be in my NES library.
Over 800 plus games, and it still has games being made for it.
Yeah.
Don't think so.
Probably not.
But I'm just talking about my personal library,
Right.
I've got I think it's 30 3DS games versus 70 NES games.
Holy cow.
But
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think it's time to move on. I don't think Nintendo is putting a lot of development behind the 3DS, and that these were just late projects that got pushed to the end. And
Yeah, I just don't think Nintendo right now is exactly, they're not dropping the 3DS as a fallback, just in case the Switch doesn't do well. But I just don't see them holding on to the 3DS that long.
But if they were to make a successor to the 3DS, they would have had to have made the decision by now. So them saying that they're thinking about it now, that's kind of a sign that it's not going to happen, because it would take another 3 or 4 years after deciding to develop a new system.
Yeah, and I think that they say something like that. Oh man, where was I going with this? As definitely a means to maybe ease the minds of the consumers that have the 3DS that, maybe are not thinking about buying the Switch, that it's like, oh, don't worry, there might still be some support if you just bought your 3DS for Christmas. Don't worry, there's still stuff coming, maybe. Just to deal with that. So.
I will say that Nintendo has said this with the Wii, when everyone said that, oh, they're dropping the Wii for the Wii U. And Nintendo's like, no, we still have games coming out for the Wii during the Wii U. And then they said that with the GBA with the DS, and the DS with the 3DS.
Well, they even said it about the Wii U, technically. The Switch will not replace the Wii U or the 3DS.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
did say that even straight up.
I think, wasn't that, who
Straight
was that? Was that Kimishima or Iwata who
It
said
was
that?
Kimishima who said that.
Yeah.
So it's just PR crap.
Yeah, I just don't think they want to, because, like you said, they sold 10 million units this past year to new people.
I don't think it's so much as angering the customers as much as it is angering investors.
It might.
True,
yeah.
angry investors.
Customers aren't going to hear that statement, except for the diehards like us. But the people that bought a system last year, they're not the people that would have heard that.
Yeah, it's interesting. But also 3DS sales, like price-wise, they've been on all-time low, too.
Yeah.
You have $80
You got a 2DS as
for
well.
a 2DS, $100 for a new 3DS, like small one, whatever. See, that drives people to go buy consoles. Like,
The sales.
yeah, sales-wise, that's really cheap, especially when the alternative is the XL, which is $200.
And to be fair, if they waited this long for the 3DS, they'll probably just wait this long for the Switch anyway. So
Right.
those people would just stick
Yeah,
on their 3DS
price
for a while.
drops get people sometimes, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So there's people who want to play the games right now, and there's people who either not thinking about it or they're just going to wait. And
It just depends what
it
it's worth to
depends.
them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, for those people who just bought their 3DS, they still have a huge library of games.
It's true.
Yeah, a good library of games to play. So, if they do transition to a new game, I don't think they need to worry about the consumers necessarily, because they're gonna they have a ton of games to play. Even if there is a new system that comes out.
They're just avoiding bad press at the time that they're releasing a new system. That's all this is.
If they say, "Oh, yeah, we have no plans of making a 3DS sequel," something like that. If they had said that, that's all anybody would have talked about. And it's like, well, this is make or break. If the Switch fails, then Nintendo's doomed.
Yeah, and now with this statement, they can, kind of hide behind it
Right.
a little bit. They can be like, well, we never said that there was one coming if the Switch, completely replaces both sides of the coin. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. Ever since the Game Boy, Nintendo has had both home and handheld consoles. And I know for myself, I always wanted both systems because of the games. You couldn't play a legit Pokemon game at home at the time. But now the Switch offers both the graphics of a home console and the portability of a handheld. Does Nintendo need a separate handheld system? Do they need that system for games like Pokemon or like we were talking about developers who don't have a whole lot of money to make HD games? Do they need a handheld system?
that for me is a hard question to answer because there are very specific genres of games that I associate with handheld games. Or with handheld consoles, I mean. You brought up Pokemon, and that it's always been on a handheld. And yes, they can move it on to an HD console. We got Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Pokemon Coliseum as kind of test runs, I guess, for a 3D Pokemon console game. But just the feel of Pokemon being in a dedicated handheld device is just something that we've always had. And so it's hard to imagine how it's going to play out on the Switch. But at the same time, since the Switch is portable, that experience is still available. I don't know.
The main reason why Pokemon's only been on the handheld though is for the social aspect, and so the Switch has that available now, and that's why they made the move.
That's a very good point. You'd use link cables with the Game Boy Advance in order to trade Pokemon, but the Switch has all of that wireless built in. You can connect up to 8 different Switches at once.
Yep. See, despite me talking about earlier how maybe some third parties would want to make games for a 3DS or something that's a little bit easier. At the same time, Nintendo is going to do what's best in their interest, and I personally think that if they focused every single effort they had, every company, on the Switch and making that amazing, and not worrying about necessarily is it for handheld or home console, it could do wonders for the console. Because everybody there are so many games on this thing that I need.
Right.
So, and if Nintendo's full steam is behind that, then this is kind of mean to say, but I don't think they'd care necessarily about the people making small games on their console if their console sells really well with their own products.
Totally.
I think it's going to be interesting because we went through a full decade where the handheld system of choice had dual screen play. And now we're moving away from dual screen play. And you don't think about it much until you realize some of the games like even just Pokemon. Like, where are they going to put the menu system now?
Yeah. Yeah. Or like Fire Emblem, like where are they going to put the map? I mean, you can pull it up on the screen, but it's always you have the map.
It's going to be weird seeing these games that were specifically only on DS and 3DS moving into a single screen system. I think that's going to be more weird than the idea of them
Agreed.
going onto a TV. Like, you can play Metroid Prime Hunters on the Wii U already, so I don't see much of an issue with that. But the Wii U had the dual screen play as well. So it's going to be weird, especially since you have that tablet. So it feels like you should be able to have that dual screen play available to yourself, but no.
Yeah, I
you,
mean-
you ca- yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, and perhaps like they'll notice like these games really work better with dual screens, and then they'll go back to having a portable with 2 screens. Who knows?
I don't know how they're going to do Mario Maker.
I could
You
I-
have to.
I think
you
you
can't
can.
do it docked while you're building a stage. I don't know.
yeah
I
that must be the thing, or you use motion controls.
maybe yeah.
That could work too.
I guess you could
Pointer.
use the pointer. Can the pointer see, like, does the pointer work the same way as with the Wii? Because you don't have the sensor bar.
Well, the
how
thing
does it know if it's looking at the screen or not?
is Skyward Sword solved that problem. Skyward Sword did not use the sensor bar in any way.
It didn't.
So you would put the Wii remote flat on the surface, and then it would know where the X and Y positions were because of where it was started. And then you could center the Wii remote pointer by pushing a button within like the start menu to recenter the select.
I see.
So
Perhaps
it would
the-
use the advanced motion sensing that you could do 1-to-1 with in order to use the pointer system.
Perhaps the Joy-Con has some sort of system in it that can figure out what the Y and the X axes are.
I'm certain it does because I
Axis.
remember reading somewhere that the motion controls are better than the Wii Motion Plus.
It has to be. It's been so long since the Motion Plus was
I
out.
bet
They've
it
had
is.
to
I
make
bet it's
better
10 times
tries.
better.
in
Especially
motion.
since they've mentioned that they're looking into VR.
We'll
Yeah.
have to do an episode on that one because that was a huge reveal, and I think Joy-Con fits the whole VR feel.
If the Joy-Con can move like the Vibe,
Maybe even
Vibe
better.
controllers, I could see it. I could see it happening.
So, will continuing supporting the 3DS harm the Switch? The 3DS sold a lot better than the Wii U, but I'm not saying that the 3DS harmed the Wii U in any way necessarily. But with the Switch being a portable as well, and people already owning 3DS and wanting to have the portability of the 3DS, will that system harm the Switch?
I think yes, but not for the reason people would think so. I honestly do think the 3DS cannibalized the Wii U. And
Okay.
the reason why was because right as the Wii U came out, or right before the Wii U came out, right when they were supposed to put in development hours for Wii U games, the 3DS was struggling with its release. And on top of that, that was when Japan got hit by their tsunami. So then they lost a lot of development resources in that disaster. And so they had to double down on the 3DS to save it. And by doing that, they had to pull resources away from the Wii U. And so one could argue that this entire time, Nintendo has had to be juggling these balls for 2 different consoles, trying to keep them in balance and check and make sure that the customers on 2 different areas are happy. Problem is that now video games are getting more and more expensive, and times between game releases are getting wider and wider. It just makes more sense now for Nintendo to do one of 2 options: either start buying a ton of studios, which could be disastrous from a management perspective, which is probably why they haven't done that, or they have to double down on one system. And so I think they either have to choose, do you go the console route or do they go the handheld route? And the Switch is an answer to both of those, saying we'll just do both. So I think the 3DS kind of needs to go. The longer the 3DS sticks around, it's going to be harmful to the Switch.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to put it. Yeah, I don't think that 3DS itself took away from sales of the Wii U, but it definitely made the Wii U not as impactful as it could have been.
Yeah, and my question is more like to the 3DS harming the Switch per se. I mean, from what Jordan said, it sounds like the 3DS may have actually harmed the Wii U. But, and I think you did answer this, but I'm just kind of clarifying the question, is that supporting the 3DS, will that like take money and take things away from the Switch in the sense that we won't get as much as we want or much as we think we should deserve from the Switch? I personally think that I don't think so, because for a long time Nintendo has had both home console and portable. And yes, the Wii U and 3DS had the problems, like you mentioned with the tsunami. But we had the Wii and the DS, and that went great. We had the N64 and the Game Boy Advance, and that was going well too. You know, for the most part. Or wait, it was the Game Boy Advance and GameCube? Whatever it was. They correlate. They worked pretty well. 3DS and Switch is probably a little different, but I think it'll be okay.
I think it could work out, but I do want to point out that Nintendo's history of their hierarchy and how the old guys call most of the shots is starting to go away. Not to spoil anything about Breath of the Wild, but... not Breath of the Wild, this is Mario Odyssey. In an interview of some kind, I don't remember exactly where, they mentioned that a lot of the new people that are working in Nintendo as software developers brought a lot of ideas to the table for the game, which makes me think that, you know, the people like Miyamoto and Iwata are starting to step farther away from their projects. I think that the way that the handheld and the portable handheld and the portable, those are the same thing. The handheld and the console were able to work together for so long was because of Nintendo's like not wanting to, you know, or being completely dedicated to both of those consoles and fighting for them as hard as they possibly could. With these new people coming aboard and starting to see how the world is changing and shifting over, I think the 3DS might need to step away, because the new guys are going to want to be able to bring all these new ideas into play, and that is going to be able to be done on the Switch rather than the 3DS. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. But
Makes some sense.
I think for me, there's a difference between can they do it and is it better if they don't. Because I think they can have a handheld console and a home console. They've obviously done it before. I think they can make it work. But I would think if they just focused entirely on the Switch, it being a handheld console and a home console, that would be far better for them just to do that, to focus all their resources on one console, so they don't have, you know, to juggle as Jordan was saying earlier.
It does make things a little scarier for Nintendo, though, largely just because if the Switch fails after putting all your resources into it, where do you go from there?
I know.
Yeah. That's the hard question.
And I think you just summed it up right there for me, because what Skylar said is, can they do it? Yeah, but is it the best thing? You know, maybe not. And I guess I'm just kind of scared because I don't want to have the Switch be a failure. I don't think it will be, but I don't want it to be a failure. And then where does Nintendo go from there? And they don't have the portable to go back on.
And then on top of this, for the longest time, the portable has been Nintendo's bread and butter. Like, because the N64 was successful, but not as much as what Nintendo wanted.
Yeah.
The GameCube was tinkering at the edge of failure, and then the Wii U was just a flat-out failure.
Yeah.
Whereas every single Game Boy iteration and DS iteration was a runaway success.
Yeah,
it's true.
More DSs were sold than PS2s, weirdly enough.
So
that's hard to do.
I wonder, and then we can go on the next topic, or the next point. I wonder if the reason that the handhelds sell so well, is it because of the cheaper price? Or is it because the portability factor? Is that a reason why it sells so well? And obviously Pokemon. I mean, Pokemon is like...
I do think it's the portability factor because they don't really have much competition.
I totally agree with that.
They haven't really gotten any real competition until the mobile market sprung up, and that's why the 3DS of the handhelds.
And PS Vita weren't that big of competition.
Not really. The PS Vita is still alive in Japan.
Wait, what's the Vita?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's still alive in Japan, but it's not nearly as strong as the 3DS.
No, and but the 3DS definitely did not sell as well as the DS.
No, you're right.
Roughly around 70 million, I think, now.
The DS and the Wii were the biggest surprises in the gaming industry. A lot of people initially thought they were going to fail, just straight up.
The DS?
The DS and the Wii.
That's why Nintendo was trying to keep Game Boy Advance as a back pocket.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was a lot of backlash for both of those.
I knew the Wii
and
had
they just
backlash.
boom, they soared, and everyone was
Now-
like, what? But anyway.
Now, you mentioned 3DS sales going down compared to the DS. Partly, I think that is, in a huge part due to mobile gaming and how that's sweeping the world. And so it comes down to the portability factor and how accessible games are.
Right.
And so with the Switch being portable as well, maybe we'll see a lot of sales for this.
Hell yeah. I mean, you get it's the same thing with the phones as Nintendo's or portable consoles, though. Just from the sense that handheld, phones, things like that, apps are like what, $1, $2?
I mean, some of them are free.
Some of them are free to play, but they spend hours and hours playing these games. But then you get them, it's like, hey, do you want to spend another $200 on this handheld, and do you want to spend $40 on a game? To a lot of people, that it doesn't sound very appealing. They're like, oh, I can just pull out my phone for a couple minutes, play some Bejeweled or something, and then go back to whatever I was doing, instead of playing these lengthy, kind of meatier experiences that Nintendo's offering. Most people aren't exactly looking for that.
True. So maybe if they get some free games on the Switch, hey, we'll be all good.
Get a couple free apps, why not?
Free apps, that'd be great.
It's got capacitive touch.
It has capacitive touch. Doesn't have pressure sensor though. Did you know that? You can't tell how hard you press on it.
Well, most devices don't.
Right. I was just saying
I'm
that doesn't
fine
have
with
that.
At least they're stepping into the right direction with capacitive in general.
Agreed. All right, and so in my eyes, the Switch looks like it could easily replace the 3DS. Well, easily, man. I use that loosely, but looking at the lineup of games, everything we talked about, does the 3DS have a life after 2017?
As far as we can tell, based on what the games have, no. Because there's nothing.
what you can see.
There doesn't seem to be anything planned past 2017.
This feels like the kind of library that every system goes through in its last year when its successor is coming out that very same year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes I wish I could see what happens internally at Nintendo just to see what they're planning. But we just have to go off of what they've told us.
One day I'll work in Treehouse, and then I'll be able to not tell you anything.
And then,
I wouldn't be able to come on the podcast.
Bill?
There's also an argument that could be made for Game Freak. It just makes more sense to put the Pokemon game on the 3DS rather than the Switch, because the 3DS, it already has an install base of 70 million people.
True.
Huge.
True.
It's going to reach more people. Game Freak's going to get a lot more money by putting it on the 3DS than on the Switch.
I hope.
Maybe that's why they always stick to the previous console.
I think it is. They usually wait. X and Y didn't come out for the 3DS until 3 years into its lifespan. 2 years? I can't remember.
It was a while.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like we've all been saying, that 3DS's future looks... We can't really tell what it's like, but in my eyes, and I think you guys all agree, 2017 kind of looks like the last year of it. The last go.
Last leg.
I wouldn't be surprised if they announced something at E3 for holiday, maybe even late or quarter 1 2018.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot. It's coming to a close.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is
It
the end.
It has a really big library as it is,
True.
and so it's fine that it's coming to an end.
And if there is a successor for 3DS, or if the Switch ends up just taking over, we shall see. But I'm super excited for the Switch, so I know won't be playing the 3DS very often, for the Switch at least.
Did you guys hear that some Best Buys in the local area are doing a 10 a.m. or
10 p.m.
10 p.m. midnight release?
I heard about that.
So you can get it at the same time as the East Coast people?
But I ordered on Amazon.
I already had mine ordered on Target. So
Dang it.
Amazon, baby.
All
Amazon.
right. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with our top 10 or 5, haven't decided yet, 2016 games.
Great.
Back.
And now it's time for Nintendo News Minute with David. It's that segment of the podcast where I go over big news highlights that happened in the last 2 weeks of Nintendo. Since the last episode didn't have a news minute, we've got to do 2 whole weeks. Let's get started. This time, Axiom Verge is getting a physical release on Wii U. Shovel Knight is a day one release for the Switch. You can now claim your Switch user ID. RPG Maker Fez is coming to the West. Gen 2 Pokemon are now in Pokemon Go. And Breath of the Wild is getting DLC. I also wrote an article defending this announcement of DLC, so be sure you go check that out and see what I have to say. Also, to count down the release of the Switch and Zelda, James and I started a series of articles all about why we're hyped for the Breath of the Wild. Be sure to check those articles out as we approach the release of the game. Just a reminder, the Switch is literally right around the corner. It is a week from the time of this recording, so be sure you've got your pre-orders in and that you're excited to get the game. We'll be talking all about that next week and the week after that as soon as it's out, so stay tuned for that. Well, that's all the big news that we have this week, but be sure you check out our website for more. So if you want to stay up to date with Nintendo news, you can check out our website at nintendcity.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can also subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review to help others find our show on iTunes and other podcast aggregates. I'd also like to take a minute to say thanks for listening to our podcast. If you'd like to help support our show and keep it growing, please consider donating to us through Patreon at patreon.com/NintenCity. Again, that's patreon.com/NintenCity. Any little bit counts, even if it's just $1, to help keep the show and the website alive. We've got a lot planned, and we're working on some new things, so please be sure to stay tuned for more from Nintensity and the Virtual Boys podcast. Without any further ado, we'll get back to the show.
Welcome back, and we're going to start with our top 10 games, but first, we got some honorable mentions. Now, these are Nintendo games, and only Nintendo games that came out in 2016 for the Wii U and 3DS and mobile. And I put 4 fingers up for some reason. Okay, Skylar, take it away with our honorable mentions.
Okay, so our first honorable mention is Super Mario Run. Super Mario Run came out 2016. It's a pretty fun little app. You know, mess around, run. Do Super
I
Mario.
liked it. I thought it was better in New Super Mario Bros. Than New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
Whoa!
That might be true, but I did 100% that game.
I did enjoy Super Mario Run. It's pretty easy to play, and I can see why
It's easy to play, but it's also really challenging when you want to start getting those coins.
True.
I think it's one of the more challenging new Mario games out there, to be honest. And the level design is top notch on some of the levels. I actually really like it. A lot of people find it frustrating to hit it with just one button press, but it's a mobile game. It's better than what the alternative.
It's an endless runner.
And I played it on my iPad, so maybe that gave me a different impression of the game than someone on the phone.
There you go.
All right. And the second honorable mention is Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. It also came out this past year.
Yeah, that's the mesh-up game between the Paper Mario series and the Mario & Luigi series, right?
Yes, which sticks true to the Mario & Luigi form. It's a lot of fun. It's not the best Mario & Luigi game, but it still has the comedy. I thought it was a lot better than Dream Team, so there's that.
At least it was better than Dream Team.
At least it was a step up from the last entry. So, but yeah, it was much better. And then the third one is Star Fox Guard, which came with Star Fox Zero.
Yeah, some people here said that they liked it more than Star Fox Zero. However, it's not really a full game.
No.
It's kind of more just a side part of Star Fox Zero, so that's why it's an honorable mention.
It seems like a bigger mini game, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
In my opinion, it just makes it a little more sad.
Some people like it better.
Like
there are people who would put it higher than Star Fox Zero.
Yep.
I am not one of them, but IGN is one.
IGN definitely did.
I don't think it should have been on its own game disc. It should have just been with Star Fox Zero.
True.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
All right. So that's 3 honorable mentions we got.
3 honorable mentions.
So let's go right into number 10, and what do you know? It's Star Fox Zero.
Wow, it's like we planned that.
I got a 0 in the number there, so.
If there had been another good game that came out on a Nintendo system, that game would not be on this list. And that's sad because it's Star Fox.
The truth.
And here I am sitting. I liked it.
No. I like Star Fox. Don't get me wrong, but I what did you give it? Like a 7 or an 8?
Yeah, I gave it a 7.
Yeah. So
on the Jordan scale.
On the Jordan
true,
scale.
which is actually like a 9. No, I'm just kidding. But
Lie.
That
I
motion,
also gave it a
the
7.
motion control and the use of the gamepad was held that game back so much.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it really did.
If they would just get rid of the control problems, I think the game would have been solid.
Oh, it would have been so good.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to, were you the kind of person that was able to get used to the controls or not? And so that's what made or break it for
Yeah.
some people.
That
I did have fun
final
with it.
boss fight was
That's
so
frustrating. That was hard.
frustrating.
Really?
Yes.
For me, it was.
I thought it was easy.
Really?
Yeah.
I died like 5 times.
It
before I
took-
got
The
it
it.
took
only
me a
the only
while.
boss I was frustrated on was the alternate boss on the first level.
That one's also terrible.
That one was so painful.
Why are all the bosses 3D fight? Anyway,
Yeah.
talk about that later.
We
talk about that later. We have.
We have talked about that, and you can check that at
Well, you
podcast.
can check out that
It's-
episode.
It's a
Some
fun
other-
one.
I really wish that the bosses were rail shooter. Star Fox Zero, I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's not one of my favorite Star Fox games. It's better than Command, but
That's not saying much.
yeah.
So it's not the Star Fox game we wanted. However, it is.
It's all right.
I feel like
It's
it's
all right.
enjoyable.
I really hope that Nintendo will remake it for Switch with real controls, but I don't have high hopes for it.
I just wanted a new game at least. Okay, so number 9, Paper Mario Color Splash, another one of the another game in the series. Obviously, Sticker Star wasn't that great. You know, we've probably said a few things about
Terrible
that.
game.
But I felt like I think the only one who played it here. I'm glad I got this on the list because Color Splash is a really good game. The writing is, although not the most ingenious plot, it took an interesting take on the thing, on the theme of Bowser kidnapping Peach, and the Toads were extremely witty, and the gameplay I had fun with. Unlike Sticker Star, battles actually meant something for most of the time. Not as grand as Thousand Year Door, but it was great. In my opinion.
And
So,
the visuals are gorgeous.
visuals,
Yeah.
gorgeous. So, good game, not great, so it made it on the list.
Yeah, it did.
Number 8, Federation Force. Metroid Prime Federation Force. What do you have to say about that, Skylar?
It was like number 4 on my personal list.
Ah.
I really enjoyed Federation Force. It's a really good Metroid spin-off game. And unfortunately, most of the community doesn't see it that way.
Yeah, well, everyone kind of went in with a bad attitude for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get over that.
It's just how we haven't had a Metroid game since 2010, and that was Other M. So we haven't had a good Metroid game since 2007, which is 10 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So that was why.
So yeah, it was like salt in the wound. Like, we don't have a Metroid game, and you're giving us this. Even though, yes, it is constructed well, it is fun to play, but it definitely, yeah, the fans are mad because, yeah, no good Metroid
As
game.
far as
really.
its own merits, fantastic game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I agree.
It's a competent team shooter. It's fun to play. You need more than one person, aka yourself, to play it. So, I mean, it's really solid. It's a really solid title. I had a lot of fun playing with people around the world and collecting little mods and going and fighting, giant death creatures and stuff with them. I thought it was a lot of fun. I had a good time with it.
yeah, reviews that said it was only like a 5 or a 4. I don't quite understand, but
Salty.
it is what it is. Salty. All right, number 7, Pokken Tournament. I love Pokken Tournament. Though my one gripe with Pokemon Tournament is I wish it had more characters.
Yep.
But
Scizor.
the roster is growing on the arcade version, so maybe one day we'll get a sequel to Tournament, and it will be on the Switch, and we'll have Scizor and all these random other ones. Krogunk and
It would
Polion.
have made more sense to have Krogun's evolution.
Toxicroak?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Toxicroak. Yeah, why Krogunk?
Krogunk is already a supporter Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's like Braixen and
no
Delphox.
sense.
It's like, why isn't it just Delphox?
Because that's the Jose Kosei, the high school
Yeah.
girl, like so they can get all the weird fetishes out there. Anyway, Pokken Tournament, I thought it was a really good fighting game, better than Street Fighter V. Fight me. Number 6, Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I've only actually played a little bit of this one, but I think Skylar played it all the way through.
Yeah, I beat the game. But,
Well, that's what it means all the way
so,
Fire
even all the DLC
Boom.
and junk. But, and a lot of the side missions. But, this game is definitely not for everybody, but it's very well done, and I personally enjoyed it because I got to take a look into the Japanese entertainment industry. Kind of a messed up industry, but it was a lot of fun to play through the game. Support a drunk boss through her trial, try to get her to sober up before a shoot or something.
One thing I noticed
weird
with
stuff.
Tokyo Mirage Session, it is fan service to the max. I mean, I thought,
Japanese version for sure.
Yeah.
They took a lot of that stuff out in the English version, which I'm kind of glad.
oh yeah. So, and I guess it's what happens when you mix two pretty famous franchises. I guess you got to get the fanboys somehow.
But I'm so confused on why it's Fire Emblem related, because most of the Fire Emblem characters don't even look like they're Fire Emblem.
I think people are confused why it's Shin Megami Tensei
Yeah,
as well.
not.
So,
It's just a weird game.
It's a Shin Megami Tensei
Yeah,
Fire
really.
Emblem crossover that plays like Persona.
Yeah, it plays like Persona.
So
Well,
you got me. Like, I don't. It's not anything.
okay, let's
of
make
what
a
I
mixture
want it to
between
be.
Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei, but don't make it play like either of the games. I got you. I'll make it play like Persona. I was like,
Exactly. It's confusing. Like it. Yeah, it's a game in its own right.
It's a
you
game.
know. So there you go.
I mean, I think, but I do think it was good, and when I played, I did enjoy. But I just think the fan base wasn't quite there with the game for the most part.
No. But, oh yeah, they had a Squid Sisters reference to Splatoon
In it,
in the game.
man, they
You
just
can
love,
look it up on
they
YouTube.
just
if you
love
want.
Splatoon.
It's freaking great.
All
Two
right,
of the
we're,
main characters.
we're just gonna move
take
on here
the,
really quick.
Squid Sisters.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh.
and do a little thing. But yeah.
Okay, number 5, Pokemon Go. This is the other mobile title that came out for Nintendo that we'll talk about. We're not going to talk about Miitomo. Just stop. But Pokemon Go wasn't even really made by Nintendo per se. It was Niantic.
Yeah.
However, Nintendo made a lot of money off of it. So we felt like it was a good game to put
Yeah,
on there.
it was good. We did a whole episode. We did 2 episodes about the game. So,
Unfortunately, as it went on, it kind of like
Yeah,
fell. Like
definitely sizzled out.
they made mistakes.
yeah.
Well, they didn't want people to play it.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
We're going to launch the game with so many bugs that it doesn't connect half the time, and then once they finally fixed it, people had moved on. So
Well, whenever people would like put up ways to fix their own problems,
Oh, yeah.
they'd go and delete it.
Yeah. Oh, no, we deleted the API key. And, yeah. By the way, no trading yet, still. Or
Still
battles.
no trading, even though they promised both of those things.
Yeah. No, well.
All right, number 4 is Twilight Princess HD. Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess HD. We were scraping the bottom of the barrel here for something. I'm just kidding. No, I
it's a good
really
remake.
like Twilight Princess is my favorite game, and to see it in HD,
It's really pretty.
it looks as like I remember. It really
It looks
does.
better than I remember because I can actually see things now.
Good point. Good
The
point.
draw distance actually works.
Things aren't so dark that I can see things. There's actual like texture to objects.
I still turn my brightness all the way up on the TV.
I love how
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I was watching Skylar play, and he was running around the Goma's lair or whatever, and then he stopped and looked at the floor. He's like, I could see the floor. I didn't know there was drawings.
You can see textures in this game now, guys.
It's great. No more mud. It's
Yeah.
It's got
not all a
rocks and
giant
pebbles.
N64 slab mess on the wall.
Maybe they made it was like, we're gonna go for edgy. Oh, maybe we a little too edgy there.
I like it because they put in a Jordan difficulty mode into the game.
That was great.
Ganondorf.
And maybe Breath of the Wild would just be
Hero
hard.
mode
Oh my
with
gosh.
double
Have you
damage,
finished?
so quad damage.
Yeah, quad damage, no,
Have you
no
finished
recovery
that
hearts. No.
Never finished
Well,
Dark
you know
Souls,
it's
Ganon.
bad when when what was it, like those little like lava slug things fall from the ceiling and one shot you.
Oh yeah, the
Right?
lava slugs one shot me. The hardest boss was the frog in the water temple.
And it was a mini boss.
Yeah, it was a mini boss because hundreds of little like tadpoles chase you and they one shot you.
Spin attack, spin attack.
Yo,
Oh,
no, because they get under the spin attack. Some of them sometimes.
Oh no!
And so you just have to rely on arrows.
Bomb arrows.
You only have so many arrows.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know, I think it was a good remake. I think they could have made it slightly better in some aspects, but you can check out our podcast episode about that
Yep,
to
we talked about it.
learn
a
about
lot.
more what we think. So moving on, as number 3, Kirby Planet Robobot. This is where we get into
Good.
territory. We have 3 great games. Well, it's probably more than 3 technically, but anyway, 3 great games. But where do we go? You know, where do we put these? And in the end, we just put Robobot number 3.
It's so good.
So good.
And we did a whole episode
Did a
on
whole
this game
episode
because
on
it's
it.
so
That's how good it was.
Kirby
It's
and a
so
mech.
fun. The abilities are really fun. The way that the mech moves around and you can interact with things is so fun. Even getting all of the collectibles is fun. Like, everything about this game just screams good, and it's Kirby. And
I haven't
Kirby's
had
adorable.
this much fun with a Kirby game since Kirby 64.
yeah, Crystal Shards, I agree. Well, maybe
Maybe what was
Return
the
to
Squeak
Dreamland.
Squad? I like Squeak Squad.
Squeak
You
Squad is
like
good.
Squeak Squad?
I love Squeak Squad, actually, now that I think
Wow.
about it.
My favorite before was Return to Dreamland. That one's, or Nightmare in Dreamland, excuse me.
Man, you're like the first person I talked to that likes Squeak Squad. Because I was like, I love Squeak Squad, but no one else likes Squeak Squad. I was like, are you kidding me? I thought it was good.
I thought Squeak
it
Squad was
Even
great.
we
I
learn new
thought I
things
was
about each
alone.
other every day.
Squeak Squad had like one of the until Robobot. It had the largest move sets for each.
Oh, huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
it
could-
was a lot of fun.
so many different.
Yo-Yo Kirby and Squeak Squad was amazing.
Yeah.
I promise you, if you want a game to get into the Kirby franchise,
Robobot.
Robobot is it.
And then
You will
Triple
enjoy it.
Deluxe.
Yeah,
Triple Deluxe is
Triple
good
Deluxe is
too.
good.
Good.
It's basically the prequel in a sense.
And if
but-
you have a Game Boy Advance, go get Nightmare in Dreamland, because that one's really fun too.
And if you have
I
a
love
DS,
that
go
one.
get a Superstar Deluxe because that game.
Oh,
is
yeah. Yes.
Well, Superstar is the best Kirby game, hands down.
so good.
It's good.
I like Robobot though.
Robobot's great.
We're not trying to downplay Robobot in any way, shape, or
Robobot's in the
form.
top tier of Kirby games.
It's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
We're just talking about other Kirby games that you might enjoy.
That's true. Good
It's saying
point.
something when you start comparing it to Superstar Ultra.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Superstar Ultra is so good.
I think this will definitely go down as one of the best Kirby games of all time. All right, number 2 is Fates, and there's 3 games in that.
Fire Emblem Fates.
Fire Emblem Fates. 3 games in it. So out of the 3, though, we definitely say Revelation's the best.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It just puts everything together, and
It's the original story.
yeah. That's what it feels like.
But don't play it without playing Conquest and Birthright.
You kind of
Oh
spoil
yeah,
yourself.
it spoils the ends. Of
So
both
should
of
you
those
play
games.
Birthright before Conquest?
Yes.
Yes, because Birthright's too easy. Well, I get you can
Oh,
up the
no.
difficulty, but
I think-
not too easy. But it's a lot easier than the.
I
other
actually
two.
enjoy
The
Birthright
maps
a
are
lot.
boring because
that's true.
they're all clear everything,
Yeah.
everything. Conquest has a more variety, but that doesn't mean I don't like the Birthright characters. I
Right.
love the Birthright characters. But
All 3 games are great.
they're all good. But play Birthright first, then play Conquest, then play Revelation. In that order,
Yep.
just because once you play Conquest, you won't want to play Birthright.
It's true because
And-
Conquest is a lot. I don't know.
And we
more
like
fun.
these games so much, we did 2 episodes about this,
We probably did quite a bit of episodes.
and we've
to be
definitely
honest.
talked about it a lot.
I like
Yeah.
this game so much, I beat them all in 2 weeks.
And I feel like I personally like it better than Awakening, and it kind of hinders back to the original Fire Emblem in a sense. Not like I'm an original fan or anything, but but anyway, so that's number 2. And number 1, can you guess what it is? Pokemon Sun and
Sonic
Moon.
Boom Fire Ice.
Oh, bamboozled again.
Gotcha, James. We
You
gotcha. This is our
gotcha.
plan the whole time.
Oh no. Well, I'm done.
I don't think it was a surprise that it was Pokemon Sun and Moon.
No.
We have raved about this game for so long. We did our, tons of episodes talking about our hype leading up to it. Then we had a whole bunch of episodes about us actually playing through it.
I think we
Then we
only had
had
one.
a
I
review
think we only- I
episode,
think we
and then
had
we
one
had
review
all of this business stuff at the end where we kept raving about it. So
I think it's one of my favorite generations.
it's really good.
That's fair.
It's really good.
I mean, they took a lot of the things that I thought were a pain in the previous games, and they made it better. They took fishing and made it terrible, but we could talk about that later. But
I wasn't a big fisher anyway.
Yeah, fishing's been getting worse and worse as the series has moved on. I don't know why they hate fishing.
I don't know.
That was my favorite thing to do in the Safari Zone in Yellow was to find a Dratini.
That was
That's
cool.
all I could do, because it's I don't want to run around everywhere. I'm just going to sit here in the pond and find a Dratini.
Now, with Sun and Moon, then getting rid of the HMs, that was a great idea. Good.
Getting rid of the bike, great idea.
Toros. So
Even the Herdier is faster than the bike.
please go check out our Sun and Moon episode. It's a lot of fun. It's great. And that's our number 1 game in 2016. Just made it in there by a month or 2. But definitely beat out all the other crappy games. I mean, all the other games.
So
No, there's a lot of games. There was good games. We didn't have a lot to choose from, though. Let's be honest.
We were tempted to have our top 5 be Pokemon Moon, Pokemon Sun, Revelations, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem Conquest and Fire Emblem Birthright.
Top five.
And then we would have fought over which is better, Sun or Moon. And
We all know Moon's
obviously
better.
Skylar and I are Team Sun.
Jordan and I are Team Moon.
So we'll settle in Smash later on. But
No, we'll settle it in Pokemon. What are you talking about?
I already have my 100% Dex, and I did catch all the Moon legendaries.
bam!
I win.
We fight.
Cool. So, James, do you want to read down the list one more time just so
Ninja.
everyone
Yeah,
knows
sure.
what we've got?
So we got number 10, Star Fox Zero. Number 9, Paper Mario Color Splash. Number 8, Metroid Prime Federation Force. Number 7, Pokken Tournament. Number 6, Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Number 5, Pokemon Go. Number 4, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD. Number 3, Kirby Planet Robobot. Number 2, Fire Emblem, all 3. But Revelation's the best. And number 1, Pokemon Sun and Moon. And that is your top 10 Nintendo games of 2016. We would love to hear what you guys think about these games. And maybe is there a game we missed? I mean, there could be. Maybe there's like, what about that that jockey game that came out for the 3DS that none of us
Pocket
played?
Card Jockey?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of reviews about that and how that's a sleeper hit. It's like, I'm not kidding.
I'm not either. Yeah,
I've heard that's a sleeper hit.
It is a sleeper hit.
All right.
It's $10 though.
Yeah. So is that Super Mario Run or
Super
Pocket
Mario
Card
Run or
Jockey?
Pocket Card Jockey.
Probably
Most
Mario
people
Run.
would say Pocket Card Jockey, actually.
Well, I mean,
From
Really?
people who have played it.
who have played it. If they don't know, they'd be like, "Well, Mario, duh."
Yeah.
But from people who played it,
From people who played it,
Jockey.
they would say Pocket Card
Yeah,
Jockey.
but the people who played it were the people that were probably going
well,
to
yeah,
say
they're like
that
referring it to
anyway.
a friend. You know, it's like, "Oh no, you gotta play this instead."
So,
Anyway, but yeah, let us know what you guys think of the list, and we're hoping that 2017 is a great year for the Switch and
I can already
3DS.
tell you the top 10 for 2017. Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild.
And number 10, Mario Odyssey.
Mario Odyssey. We'll have a rousing bout about that when it comes time.
gotta stay hypeless.
You gotta stay hype. And that's about wraps it up.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking over that episode, James. We appreciate it. Fun discussion about the 3DS and our top 10 games. So to wrap things up, we will say goodbye by saying be sure to check us out on our website at nintendcity.com. Man, I almost said virtualboys.xyz again, man. That's what happens when you change your name.
Those were the days.
Those are the days. Not so great. Nintendo City is already doing better. But anyway.
In a month.
Yeah.
In a month,
Maybe
yeah.
it's because we have a calm.
Yeah, .com. But anyway, be sure to check us out on our website at nintendcity.com. And be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And we're definitely posting a lot more news articles than we ever have been. So be sure to check us out for those. And thanks for joining us this week. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, you good people.
Next week we'll